Welcome back, my beautiful souls, to What to Watch Now, where we talk about what's streaming on Netflix right now. And in today's episode, I'm going to be a little more chill, a little more quiet, because but a few feet away from me, the love of my life is still sleeping, and it's very early in the morning at the moment. So we're going to have a little more of a relaxed podcast. If you like this, let me know. Today, also in respect to the love of my life, I'm going to be reviewing Queer Eye. Woo! Because he loves this show, and when I was asking him his opinion on what show I should do first, he was like, you gotta do Queer Eye. So I was like, okay, sure, of course, there's tons to talk about there. Queer Eye originally came out in 2003. Yes, there was an OG Queer Eye, and I actually remember when it came out. It was a big deal at the time when it came out because I don't think there was a lot of notable openly gay shows out there. And also, unfortunately, for a very long time, being gay was seen as like a comedic joke or like a punchline. And this was the first time it was just showing people being themselves and showing that. By the way, for the future of this podcast, as I say LGBT, I am referring to the QAI plus, but Jesus Christ, is that a long ass name? So LGBT, you know what I'm saying. Anyways, this was showing how a group of LGBT people and how they're not this punchline, that they are people and they come from different backgrounds and are different personalities and so on and so forth. It basically normalized what was already normal, but kind of brought it to a more commercial state for people who just, I don't know, didn't know anybody that was gay. I don't know, you see what I'm saying. It was like a big deal at the time. And that's really awesome. That was like a positive point in history. And I would say that this show has taken that concept to the next level. This is like the next evolution of normalizing not just the LGBT community and showing even more variety and walks of life, but going deeper into who they make over. And I'll go over that in this podcast. But like when they first were making over people in the OG version, it was honestly like really nice straight men. That was usually the dynamic. It was usually straight men that they made over, and the idea was like, see, like there's nothing we need to separate here. There's no differences, no matter what sexuality orientation you are or what gender you're into. We all have some insight and some bonding, and just showing like a positive, what is normal to a lot of people but might not be for many. And in this regard, it normalizes some people of different backgrounds who are going through some really tough times. It goes through men, women, young, old, whether you have you're struggling financially or you just kind of need help feeling cute for an anniversary dinner. It really kind of hits all the ballparks in that way. And through those journeys, it opens up even more discussions. And I love that. It's really positive. That's a huge reason why I think people get caught up in the whole cuteness of the show. Cuteness of the show aside, I do want to point out one of the things that kind of like pulled me away from Queer Eye initially and kind of made me hesitant about liking the show is I already kind of have a bit of a, what's the word? I recoil a little bit. I'm not as into, not strong words is what I'm trying to say, but I'm trying to say that like when there's a show that's forcing a emotional breakdown, I tend to be like, I can see right through this act. It's making me uncomfortable. It's weird that you're making somebody's trauma a punchline. That's the best way I can put it. Like not a punchline, but a plot line. And that can seem kind of insensitive or forced and makes me cringe. But what made me see that at first was because of a lot of the catchphrases, a lot of the overjoyous type of vibe of like, we're going to come in and fix it, kind of this vibe of we have all the answers, not out of arrogance, but what they were trying to narrate for the show. But honestly, that's just to like pull you in. That's just to kind of give you some idea of identity with the show. These people are real. And I'm going to go into that further, but they have very intense backgrounds and they are not afraid of opening up, and they are very patient with these people, and just somehow, no matter what the background they go through, what the person is gone through, they're able to like touch that part of them and know how to best convey an idea. And I think they take the idea of, because like every member represents a different idea. So Bobby Berk is interior design. By the way, Bobby, poor Bobby needs a lot more showtime. The man is doing so much fucking work, and I don't feel he gets enough screen time considering he's doing so much physical work. Love Bobby a lot. I hope I'm saying his name right. Karamo? Is it Karamo or Karamo? Boo? He's out. Karamo Brown, culture. Tan France, fashion. Antonio Porowski, oh my god, me and my names. Food and wine. And Jonathan Van Ness for grooming, like hair and stuff like that. And hygiene and such. And each one of them takes that idea and elevates it. You know, I've always been very reluctant of shows that are like, hey, if I teach you how to do your hair, it's going to solve all these other trauma issues and help you pay your bills and everything. And this takes that idea and says, but this is the branching off point for confidence, and that shouldn't be undervalued. Sometimes confidence is the very thing that helps you overcome your trauma or face, your demons or your fears. And in that respect, they go into the idea that sometimes, like, okay, so example, grooming. Sometimes grooming can help you be taken more seriously and then maybe get that business loan you really want. Or being able to pick out your own fashion can lead you to understanding your gender and your fluidity a lot better. And food and wine can help you show off your capabilities to a potential date or your family to back off and realize you're your own person. And that branches off, that becomes like an olive branch of connection and discussion. They take these ideas and really expand on them in a way that I think other shows are trying to narrate, but because it's a little too forced and the way they go about it, it doesn't really land the way it does here. So I think they do a great job in that. Another thing that kind of made me think it was a little bit catchphrasy is lovable Jonathan Van Ness and his beautiful hair and beard tends to have a ton of catchphrases and have a very flamboyant personality, which is wonderful. But how do I put this? So, unfortunately, like I said before, in previous forms of comedy, being very flamboyant and any form of like homosexuality or LGBT or anything was used, unfortunately, as a punchline insensitively. And a common personality that was made fun of over and over and over again was the very effeminate or flamboyant type personality with tons of catch lines. But the reality is, think of it this way, like in a metaphoric stance. So somebody has a blue purse their whole life. They're always wearing this cerulean bright blue purse, and they've worn it from when they were young into their adulthood, and they've even at times been made fun of it. Why do you always wear the cerulean blue purse? Don't you know there's other purses? That's not even a good-looking purse. And one day, out of the blue, unbeknownst to them, that cerulean blue purse becomes popular and trendy. And before they know it, they're being picked on or criticized. Oh, of course you're wearing a cerulean blue purse. Hey, don't you know that's out of fashion? Everyone wears a cerulean blue purse. What are you trying to fool us into thinking you're unique for it? And it's like, are we really going to victimize someone for who they really are? And this again goes to the idea of the different avenues of life and normalizing like every beautiful flavor of human on the rainbow. And that includes somebody who is extra flamboyant and extravagant. And now, just to be clear, that's not something that's like obviously negative at all. I'm talking about the idea that sometimes because of pop culture and comedy shows and stuff in the past, it has made that personality seem like it's a quote unquote act when that is just some people's lives, and a positive one and a wonderful one to be accepted. And I think when you spend time with Jonathan, you quickly realize like that's just his like beautiful soul. That's just who he is, and that's wonderful. So moving forward, I want to talk about the variety of people they have. That's something I loved a lot on this show with the way they went about things, because The thing is, it's kind of an unspoken thing, but as much as people like to pretend they want to watch a documentary or feel for someone who's either going through addiction or is maybe struggling to find a home, there tends to be a quick backlash when they actually meet these people. Oh my gosh, why can't you just get a job? Ugh, you're this old and you can't get your life together? Oh, I get it. You're having trouble in your marriage. It must be leading divorce. It's just so quick to judgment. And you have to somehow fill out this unspoken box. And that box includes your ethnicity, your financial background, your identity via gender and sexual orientation, and even your job. Job's a huge one. And if you'll notice, a lot of these shows seem to only help people that they'll describe as a mess, but somehow these people are successfully paying for a two-bedroom house all by themselves in LA. So just want to point out that it seems like it's kind of discriminatory towards a lot of other groups and saying, well, you're kind of a hopeless cause, there's no help there, or somehow it's negative that you're even living that life, that should be judged or seen as pity or anything negative, when in reality that couldn't be further from the truth. As we fight and we're more and more outspoken about who we are and what we want, and that we should be normalized from any group or situation in a really positive way, people want to capitalize on that. And that is a good thing, because the more and more people see an avenue of money being led, at least more and more of your voices will be heard. Trust me, everything is done strictly for money. That's why they didn't talk about certain things or avenues for so long, afraid of losing money in sponsorships. But now that it's the new cool hip thing, shout your little heart out. They definitely want to put a camera on you. So as they're going through the variety of people, it really touched my heart and made me connect to the show way more, because I actually knew a lot of these type of personalities or were them myself. And that showed me that getting help can come from a very small gesture. Like one was about a woman who was a corrections guard. Lovely, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful woman who just wanted to have a nice dinner. I think it was like an anniversary dinner with her husband. So she wasn't suffering to be able to pay the bills or anything. Like, it wasn't like she wasn't already gorgeous and everything like that. It wasn't even any criticism on her lifestyle, which was another huge, what I talk about when I say you're going to have this group of people that span different backgrounds and normalize that. And that's so great that they pick people from different backgrounds. So they pick someone who, shooting a gun and wearing camo, and they're saying, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, but maybe we can find a way to make it a little more chic and a little more, something like, clearly when you looked at their specific home, this couple, they were trying to do something designer oriented. They were trying to do something special with it, but they just couldn't figure it out. And God love them for it. Who hasn't been there trying to figure out their life in that way? So anyways, the husband lovingly was just like, hey, my wife can get a little insecure and not feel good about herself, and I want her to feel good about herself. That's a common thing that it was on previous type of fixer-up shows, and is always welcomed. It's not like their story isn't as valid, and that's the main point of this show, is that everyone's story is valid. But then they also had a man's story who, oh my god, it just was so crazy. It was weird how much he reminded me of my uncle, but like even sweeter and even nicer, which was so weird to see. But they had a man who was overcoming addiction. He was clean, but from a divorce and struggling with addiction, everything like that, he was in a position where, so he was a camp counselor, or camp director, I think, which is awesome. And he had been living out of his RV for like a couple years. Now, first of all, I just want to point this out. This is like a side note. But an RV comes under the classification of tiny house. And tiny houses are very hip and very cool. I happen to have an infatuation with them. I've lived in them. So like tiny houses are awesome. There's nothing negative about tiny houses. But I do agree, as a tiny house lover, his poor tiny house was going through the gigs. There was clothes hanging up everywhere. There was no light. There was no cleanliness. I don't think that really probably made him feel good about himself. Probably made him feel disheveled in his life. And the boys didn't judge that he was living in an RV, but understood that he wanted to evolve past that, and that probably wasn't the cleanest way of living, the way his particular situation was. And during that time period, we got a little bit of kind of an unwrapping. Antonio, the food and wine guy, kind of very quietly, he kind of just let it be ambivalent, or whatever the word is, where it's not very direct. Understandably, it's his private background, but he opened up and shared that he had some personal experience with addiction as well, and he kind of opened up with him, and nothing speaks better than someone who's been through the shit you've been through and can get it, and can say the right words that go, oh, I'm not alone, you too. So that was a really intense background. Another was I think talking about some important discussions that don't get brought up enough. A girl who had been thrown out for deciding to come out as a lesbian woman was really struggling with her gender fluidity and finding confidence. So she was not only struggling with her confidence via having been rejected for her sexuality, but she didn't know where she fell in the spectrum. She felt she was a little more butch, but when push came to shove and she had a conversation with Tan about it, she brought up that her fashion icon, if she were to pick one, would be Janelle Monáe. She's okay wearing something more feminine, but she also likes something a little more masculine too. And above anything, she wants to feel like she's kind of out of this kid zone. It's kind of funny when we experience trauma, we still seem to be trapped in that area of our life. So we experience trauma as a younger person, we still feel young. We feel like we are unable to escape that vibe. So that's so beautiful that they had that discussion at all. I mean, can you imagine anyone watching that show who's struggling with their own identity being like, I feel a little more butch, but everyone's going to comment and make fun of me if I want to wear a dress one day. And this just keeps normalizing that discussion. And these are but 3 examples I'm giving you of a very large show. They talked to a very nice, just such a goofy, sweet boy who was friends with all the old people, and was... they brought the conversation of adoption and what that's like and leaving home for the first time. The whole thing is really beautiful. I do want to make one comment though. This is like my plead with Netflix. So the original Queer Eye went from I think 2003 to 2007, and I don't know how many seasons that was, but this show only came out in 2018. And we're not even halfway through 2019, and we're on our 3rd season. 3 seasons! And you could really tell towards the end of these episodes that the boys were exhausted. Either you'd catch them and they looked a little more tired in their face, or you could tell they were struggling to come in with such high intense energy and just sometimes look very blank-faced when someone was like, it was just so funny, someone would be having a moment and relieving their emotions, and they looked kind of dead-eyed, and you could just tell that they maybe were forced to work in a schedule confines that was pushing them a little bit. So what I'm begging of Netflix is, can you just, give them a break for, just a couple weeks? Give them maybe send them on a vacation, even pay for it so they can sleep and relax, because I didn't think they came off as insensitive or anything like that. I could just tell they were tired, and I'm concerned for them. I want them to be able to enjoy this wonderful opportunity in their life, and also feel relaxed and so on and so forth. Anyways. So the hosts themselves are wonderful, I want to talk about, and their different backgrounds. So one thing that's so great about them is you have to I always talk about on this podcast the idea of business, the reality of life, things like that. And not in a cynical way, but how can we use it to our advantage? So often, like I said before, the way they'll pitch a show is with some sort of gimmick. So the general gimmick with the first Queer Eye, for sure, with the second, is the idea that we have 5 gay men, which is just wonderful, and especially in a generation where people want more of that, and how they are going to impact other people's lives. In the first one, it was more about the idea that they're going to put 2 groups of people and normalize them interacting and all that type of stuff. And then in the second one, because that is more normal, it was more showing, it was still the gimmick of them doing it and what Queer Eye initially represented, but honestly just branching off and helping people with with kind of like a powerful, happy, successful insight. That's what they all represent. They all represent really successful, happy lives and making it all seem normal. But that's what it's so fun and interesting. This show's kind of like a relationship with someone. You don't really know them or know what they have to offer until you're with them for a very long time. So what I'm about to share or express was shared and expressed over 3 seasons. Like, it wasn't something even kind of hinted at until really the 3rd season in a lot of cases. But so all these men seem just so prime examples of you would want to hear what they have to say because they are success stories. But in reality, as we get a little more of an insight of what they've been through, Karamo, who has, again, I hope I'm saying his name correctly, it's just not coming off the top of my head. Karamo, he let us know that he has children. So that means at one point in his life, I mean, I don't want to speak for him, but I kind of get the idea that he might have not even, he could be bi for all we know. But what I'm trying to say is he could have not even known he was gay, had children, and then had to deal with his sexuality and still wanting to have a relationship with his children. Or just sometimes, and again, this is not discussed enough, but because like, a lot of people can accept gender fluidity and talk about it, but whatever. But there can be an anger when a partner not only leaves you, but then comes out as the opposite sexual orientation. There somehow seems to be, people can take it sensitively and think that somehow a reflection of they did something wrong or their relationship, so to speak, didn't count when that isn't really the case. So I'm sure he was struggling with that type of confrontation, possibly, allegedly, I don't know. I can't speak for him, but I'm just saying there is some sort of background there that he had to overcome. Tan definitely hints at his traditional family. He even talks about very lightly how, with one guy who was also Indian, about how it's common that their parents would keep some sort of like, I don't know how to describe it, marriage box with different treasures and things you would give as a dowry when they get married. And this idea that he was making a joke out of something probably was very serious for him and his family when he was like, listen, I'm not going to be marrying a woman, okay? You're going to have to give it to my husband, because I'm pretty sure Tan has mentioned a couple times his wonderful marriage of 14 years. So Tan's had to deal with that, which that's probably really intense. I'm sure he was very close with his family, so that was probably a struggle to have someone not understand you or get you. Again, Antonio has mentioned addiction. My beloved Bobby, I love Bobby so much. I don't want to have favorites, I really do love them all equally, but Bobby just pulls at my heartstrings in a particular way. And Bobby has mentioned his experience with adoption, and even he had actually, crazily enough, a situation where he was talking to the one girl who was figuring out her gender fluidity, and he mentioned he also, in his later years, found out he had a sibling that he was told was a cousin, which, like, what a crazy, like, I'm sure they even, no, I don't think they would have known beforehand that. But either way, it's still really, really, really crazy and coincidental. And then we haven't gotten anything from Jonathan yet, but oh, we'll get something from him. Him and his fabulous boots, because he's always, I love when he wears boots and he's like, you're going to have to carry me because they're not practical, but I'm going to look great in them. I'm just like, commitment. So what I'm trying to say is these people make it look easy. And I think they're great leading examples that if you work hard and you don't let your trauma or your fears or what people wanted to label you as define you, that you too can be so blindly happy and filled with money, whatever you want to, whatever version of success you want to have, and be your own person, that will just seem like truly a speck of dust that passed by your life, that trauma. And that's, people need to hear that because when you're going through trauma or depression or whatever you're going through, it feels like forever. So it's beautiful. I mean, they couldn't have picked better people for a variety of reasons, for their variety of skills and insight and background. Now, just the last leading point I want to mention is the idea that You watch this show and they're trying to sell to you a fantasy. Like I said before, that's the gimmick, that's the idea that they can come in, they can be your fairy godmothers, and they can fix your life, and everything will be different from this point on. But in reality, not just with the evidence of when people have said, oh, home, like one of those makeover shows came over and fixed my house, but now it's too expensive and I can't pay for it. Or, yeah, I kind of ended up going back to addiction. Or, not that I'm accusing this guy of it. He's unrelated to this topic, by the way, because if he listens, I just want him to know, like, you've got this, keep going. But what I'm trying to say does their assistance really help? Is it really that life-changing? And again, I told you my reluctance with these type of shows is for that very reason. I feel weird when all my peers are like, that's so beautiful, that's great. And they kind of are eating their popcorn and enjoying people's really serious life situations as kind of like I said, popcorn food, just enjoying it for fun, cry for a second, move on. And that's someone's real life. That really does bother me. Not that I'm accusing this show of explicitly doing that, but what I'm trying to say is the idea that they come in and say, I'm fixing it. But in reality, I actually think this show is one of those rare shows that does really help. While you can define it as a job and whether these men really care enough, I think they really care. I do get the vibe they do care about the people, but what I'm saying is even if it is a job, they take their job seriously. They give great advice. They find a way of using their skills and talents to open up a bigger discussion and genuinely give helpful tips and tools for the long run other than dumb stuff like hey, we highlighted your hair, right? Now you can just go get any man. When in reality, she might be struggling with a menage of things. Maybe she hasn't been laid in a while. How does she deal with that conversation? How does she talk about her past and background? How does she deal with rejections and so forth? And they're just like, no, don't worry, your hair's highlighted. This isn't that way at all. They give great tools to use in the future. And what I'm trying to say is they give assistance in many different ways because people are in different places in their life. So like for some people, they just kind of needed this act of someone making over their house and giving them a new wardrobe. I'm simplifying this idea, but this idea and this thing acts as like a push, and it's all they needed. They just needed someone to push them out of the cycle. For other people, like I said, it's a manual. It's like how do I express this? Have you ever been stuck in a rut in your life and you keep repeating, whatever problem or situations over and over your head, whatever you're stuck on, and one day someone just says something so simple out of nowhere, gives the best advice ever, and all of a sudden you come out of it and you're like, what? Whoa, that's all I needed. A great example would be I did an episode in the Venture Brothers. You should totally check that out. In the Venture Brothers, there's a whole entire season where Hank is grappling with the moral dilemma that he is a clone. And he is incredibly moody from this. He feels very distrustful of his father and many things. And then one day he shares this information with Hank, and Hank just laughs and go, isn't that really cool? And in just a few short sentences, totally changes Dean's perspective on the matter. And this whole drama-filled year could have been fixed in 5 seconds if he had shared it sooner. That's kind of what it can be like for them. And then there's also just the straight up fixing their entire life. Sometimes you're in a situation, I would compare the RV guy like that. He wanted not only to have his own home, and that represents so much, but it was a place that his son could come to and stay in. He could feel more confident, going forward and bringing his girlfriend around and so on and so forth. So for them to fix his home, he already had a great job. He was already overcoming stuff, but to give him that makeover he needed to fix his home, so on and so forth, get him reconnected with cooking and stuff, that really fucking fixed his life. It's like enough factors were in alignment that was the last missing ingredient. They really did completely change his life with this makeover. So what I'm trying to say is the show is really good for its variety and and saying that all of it's good, all of it's helpful. I love their backgrounds from both the host to the guests. I like that they evaluate each situation appropriately, and they don't try to force anything. They just try to understand what the people need. I think that honestly only sells them as a better, like, person you would want to go to for, like, whatever you're going for. So if you're like, oh, if I need to learn more about food and wine, Antonio's really going to give you that variety and so on and so forth. But that being said, I just wanted to make a few little comments in a loving way. So one, I kind of had to point out, did anyone else think it was really funny that one episode when he was with these two older women? They were sisters, I think, and they had a barbecue restaurant, very like award-winning, whatever. And Antonio, one of the things he was doing a part of his situation was he was trying to help them get their secret recipe sauce into a bottle. And obviously they didn't want to share it. They still wanted to be private. And I don't think he was trying to do anything harmful or be in their business, but it was absolutely hilarious how much they fucking just made it clear that they did not like him. And I was like, poor Antonio. He was trying, and he was such a good sport about it because he just tried to smile and grin through it because he was like, I'm doing whatever I can, but these women just do not like me. I'm just going to have to grin and bear it this episode. So award goes explicitly to him for that moment. Bobby, you make me cry a lot. I cannot get over how much I like you. I do think that Netflix needs to be a little more mindful how much they show him, and they need to show him more often. I feel sometimes we just, or even like his interior design, I feel like we get 2 seconds of him painting something or picking out a rug, and then they skip it and they just quickly show the apartment, when that's like one of the biggest kind of reveals and positive things that are done to affect people's lives. And they're just kind of like, yeah, interior design. And it's like, Bobby not only has wonderful insight as a human being, but can we just give his cred a little more of a, zoom in? Because everybody else gets like a, 5-minute segment. Can we give him one too? Camaro, god damn it, Karamo. Fuck, I hope I say his name correctly. He has a wonderful name too. Karamo, I really like him. But I think they need to be a little aware that his culture segment is becoming a little more him getting to soak in all the emotional kind of like okay, again, we're talking about TV here. To be there when someone's having an emotional connection or breakthrough is kind of like you're in by proxy being near them, kind of being related with that, and you can be seen as therefore the more emotional one. And I think he's getting a little too many moments where he's just straight up dealing with almost their therapy. And I mean, if he represented that, that's fine. I'm sure in a way that's kind of an unspoken thing he is. But I don't know, like, you can do a lot with culture. Like, when the episode when he was helping that one young man overcome his shit with with his troubles with his mom having passed away, and he was having him stack up boxes and tear it down. That was a wonderful exercise. I don't think I would take that away. I think that was great. But, however, I think as someone who struggled with meeting people, I thought it was more useful and helpful if he did things like showed him different places to meet people outside of gaming, different activities he can do. I thought one useful segment in that particular episode was that he showed them this really cool anime club, which, by the way, don't you wish there was more clubs where you could get drinks and like talk to people about your favorite stuff? So cool. He should have kept branching off of that idea of like maybe he could find a way to professionally play video games and use his talents and make money and so on and so forth. So I just think they need to be a little aware of that, because I want everyone to have an opportunity to have that emotional connection, and I feel like sometimes it was just centralized around him. The Tan, love Tan, awesome Tan. I'm just kind of going through the list. Jonathan, awesome. I'm trying to think of anything else I want to add. By the way, I did really like that they branched off with Jonathan for Jonathan going beyond just hair and beards. Like, he shows skincare and nails. So important. Love that. I guess that's all I have to say. I just really love this show. You should totally check it out. It's really fun. It will get you. You'll kind of, if you're like me and you're kind of a little bit pull away from this type of show in that way, you'll be surprised and find yourself wanting to watch another episode and another episode and another episode because it's just that good. Oh my god, I'm so sorry for the very loud truck or whatever's passing by. That being said, if you enjoyed this episode, please consider becoming a Patreon supporter today. I'm working on a bunch of cool projects I'm excited to release soon, and if you sign up now, you'll be the first to hear about it. Either way, please tell a friend about this podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on whatever platform you're on, because it helps out a lot. And that would just mean the world to me. I put a lot of effort into this podcast. I really give a shit about it, and I would love to make it my full-time job. So have a beautiful day. I love you in the most platonic way possible.